Alright, how's it going? Today I'm gonna try something a little bit different. So usually when it comes to this stuff, I tend to just like throw a tier list on the screen and try to do that because it's easy to do and I like talking about things. I'm gonna try something a little different this time though, and I'm actually going to rank these Forsaken maps from worst to best, rather than just throwing a tier list on there and kind of calling it a day. So I'm gonna give my own opinion about each one, why I like them, why I don't like them, what could make them better, hopefully, and eventually maybe we can see some changes at least to some of the maps that definitely need some. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start with the very, very worst and progressively talk my way up to the very best. Of course, this is just my opinion. This is going to be a very subjective list. Some people might think that these maps that I don't like are some of the best, or they might think that my favorite map is the absolute worst map in the history of gaming. So, take everything with a grain of salt, make your own opinions. You can have your own opinions. It's okay. It's fine. I promise. But without further ado, I'm going to start with my least favorite map. So, coming in at my least favorite map, and I think a lot of people actually agree with this one, so not, hopefully not to the shock of many people, but it is Planet Voss. Planet Voss isn't a bad map per se. I don't want to say that any of these maps are like horrid, right? But I will say that this one isn't great. It's so starting up balance wise, it's very killer sided, right? It's very flat, it's very small, and there's a lot of open space, which means that it's very easy to be seen. It's very easy to be chased. There's not a lot of amazing loop potential, right? So, in that regard, it is pretty killer sided. I would also say that this map lacks a lot of detail and interesting factors that make it appealing, especially when we get to some of the later, higher maps. In my opinion, there is a lot of detail that goes into those maps, and this one is just very generic. It's a lot of white brick with the grass texture for the floor and like the occasional tree. That's like 90% of it. I know there's a couple like spaceships on the corners, but you can't even use them because they're kind of like they're closed in, so you really can't do anything about those. It makes some of the more interesting areas of the map really unuseful, and everything else is just really bland and boring. Um, it, so I actually went and played all the source materials as well before actually like ranking these, so I made sure I was like up to date on what I was talking about. And I think this actually tries to fit a little too much. As we'll see with later entries, they will take the source material and really build off of it and make it interesting and make it unique, right? This one really went one to one or very close to one to one with the source material, which is the Planet Voss game, and I don't think it works well. I think so, and the maps already had to be remade once because of how that map played, and I don't think this one plays much better. So I think they need to try and do something a little more original with it. Try and like really make it something that's more fun to play on, because right now it's just like it literally is not fun to play at all. So unfortunately, I really just can't give this one anything besides being the worst map. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Underground War. This is one of the newer maps, and I think that every time I have played on this map, I have not had fun. It's very hard to have fun on this map for me, and it doesn't even matter what side I'm on. So, first off, I would say this map is very, very survivor sided. It's obviously having two floors doesn't help that because it makes it so that as the killer, you can only see half the map at all times. So, very hard to find people sometimes, and when you do find people, there's a lot of looping spots that are really good on this map. There's a lot of spots that is very open as well, but the way that the loops are made is so that they're They tend to be more in the middle of the map, which means it's very easy to get to them, and the open area kind of always has a loop or cover spot to play around. And just on top of that, it was really just clunky to play on this map, even after the stamina rework. So prior to the stamina rework, you would lose stamina just by being like right underneath them. So that was really, really stupid. And even now, like playing on the map now, I still think it's really clunky to play on this map, just because like even if you like know where someone's at and you know they're right above you, the amount of time it takes just to get up there is really, really clunky. So I don't enjoy this map. I think it's just really unfun, and even as Survivor, I just don't have fun on this map. So again, unfortunately, it's just gonna go all the way down here. Coming in at number 7 is Pirate Bay, another newer map. And this is kind of where I start going from like I actively don't like these maps to I can at least play on this map. So again, I would say Pirate Bay is very killer-sided, similar to Planet Voss, and it's kind of for a different reason though. The thing about Planet Voss is that it is super, super flat, which means that it is very difficult to really like get away from certain killers or their attacks very well. It became a much more of a predictive game, which is fine, but it obviously makes it a lot harder. With this map, the problem is that there is a lot of open space that is very underutilized and doesn't have a lot of looping spots or ways to get away from the killer without running in a straight line. And the areas that do have this have multiple ways of being cut off, and so it's almost like a worse version of the like prediction game, because at least with Planet Voss, right, you have very tall walls and nothing really cutting you off at any point because of that. On this map, half of the map is just filled to the like the higher section, the one with like the ship and the two like red walls, is very easy to get cut off there, even if you're playing like really well. It is really, really easy to get cut off there, and so you have to play very carefully up there. And then when you go down to what I would consider to be the safer area, the problem is that it's just open. It's all open space. So you really don't have anything to work around very well outside of like two little corners and like structures, and both of those structures can also be played around pretty easily by killers, especially ones like John Doe. This is actually an amazing map for him because it is so easy to cut off the few looping spots that actually semi-work, or cut off the entire side by just putting your little puddles, or whatever they call I call them puddles, just putting your 3 puddles on the 3 ways up. You literally just completely block off the way up. Now, I will say, this map is very good in detail. I do like that this is the first map on here that is very detailed and fits the game pretty well. So, in that regard, that is what kind of brings it up compared to the other two. The other two just like, they don't fit very well, they don't play very well. Pirate Bay at least looks good, but I would say that it doesn't play very well, and I think that's what puts it down here for me. Coming in at number 6, I have Assassin Ground. And I know a lot of people that actually do like this map a lot, so I do want to start by saying that this isn't a bad map either. It kind of has the same thing with Pirate Bay, where the detail's really good. I really like that the detail on this map very, 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 very perfectly fits the inspiration. Now, obviously, the source material is heavily janky right now because it hasn't been updated in like years, but going and playing that map, it is dang near perfect how they like recreated it in this game. It's actually really impressive. So in that regards, it is really good. The OST as well fits very well without being too like present or weird. It just fits them like thematically, but it also fits gameplay wise. has this like ambient track. My problem though, again, stems just from the fact that gameplay is not that fun, in my opinion. Again, very subjective take here, but I don't enjoy playing this map gameplay wise. It's very survivor sided for sure. There is a lot of points that you can loop around, and unlike Pirate Bay, where there's a lot of cutoffs, these looping points just don't have that. There's like maybe one that has a reasonable way of cutting off the person. All the others are just like long walls or like one-way loops to the point that there's really no way of cutting them off, and it just becomes a stamina game. And I prefer when it's a little bit more than just a stamina game. And also to add on to that, the other thing I wanted to say is characters who really work around like horizontal range attacks, so like John Doe, like 1X, they suffer a lot because there's a lot of elevation, right? You have the entire cave area, you have the like pool area with the platforms going over it right next to the caves. You have the main structure itself on the other side, which is elevated. So it makes it so that there's a lot of ways to just straight up dodge their attacks because of the elevation there. Now, I don't think they like are abysmal to play on this map, but they certainly have to work harder than someone like, say, Cool Kid, who can just kind of work around it a little better. So this is just kind of another case where, unfortunately, there's a lot of detail and a lot of interesting factors, but it's really suffering by the lack of balance that these lower maps tend to have. So, number 6. Coming in at number 5, and the middle ground, is Yorick's Resting Place. So this map is very 50-50, and I think that's what makes it the perfect middle map. Balance-wise, it is very dependent on who you are playing and who everyone else is playing, right? I've had games where I am playing my absolute A game and I still die because I just don't. My teammates aren't, like, they're playing all noob or survivalists, and I'm going against a, like, Jason who's also really good, you know? In cases like those, yeah, it's gonna feel frustrating. Then I'll have games where I'm playing not so great, but they're playing 1X and have an absolutely miserable experience, right? But then on the flip side, I've also played 1X on the map and have done insanely well. I've also played Jason on the map and have done piss poor. So, like, it is very dependent on who everyone is and how you play, which is good. It should be like that. It should be where it's not so dependent on the map. It's just dependent on who you're playing. I do like that. But with that said, there is still definitely moments of it being like really 50-50, just really iffy sometimes. So, especially when it comes to, like, this map has some of the best looping points, namely the graveyard is insanely good. But then, kind of on the flip side, you also have some of the worst looping points, so you kind of have to deal with that. Going off from that, and this is, I'm gonna try to be respectful when I say this, so please don't take this as like a hate boner thing, but this is definitely the worst soundtrack in the game when it comes to map ambience. I hate this track a lot. Since the day it was put in, I did not like it. The problem with this one is that it feels completely different than what makes, like, map ambience work. With map ambience, it's supposed to be something that thematically fits, but still also has the idea of being in this, like, survivor versus killer scenario. And I think the soundtrack just straight up loses the ball on both of those. It's very quirky, it's very weird, it's almost upbeat, which is kind of weird for a survival horror game, or as horror as you can get on a Roblox game. But this soundtrack just is not good. I would much prefer the old one, but obviously, like, that's just me. Also, Last Man Standing sucks on this map. As killer especially, it's a really big map, and again, this has some of the best looping spots in the game, so if someone knows that they're gonna be the last man standing, all they gotta do is just hide in one of these really good looping spots and just hold out for a minute or a minute and a half, depending on what it is. So that sucks. It is very difficult sometimes to do anything as killer against last man standing because you spend half of it just trying to get to them, and then once you actually get to them, the loops are so good that it's just like, yeah, you're not getting anywhere. So my personal suggestion for that would just be to make it so that the loops aren't as strong, but then on the flip side also making sure to maintain the balance so that it, because I think this is also a map that could very easily become killer sighted if there's too much tweaking. So it's really hard to say, and that's why it's like very middle for me, where it's like it's not bad. There are certainly good qualities about it. Like, this is the first map I would say that has at least some sense of balance to it, but that doesn't inherently mean that it's like great either. Coming in at number 4, I have Glass Houses. I think that Glass Houses is kind of where we go towards like actual good maps. This is where I start actually enjoying the maps quite a bit. First off, I would say this is one of the best balanced maps in the game, if not like top 2. There's only one map I would say that is more balanced than Glass Houses. It is a very open map, I understand that, but there are still lots of great loops that survivors can utilize, and it makes it so you're not on stamina game, and it's also not constantly the prediction game. So that makes it nice so that it is actually very skill based. I do like that. There is also points of elevation so that it's not like the Planet Voss syndrome where you're having to like deal with John Doe or 1x attacks far more frequently. You do have areas to play around those characters. So balance wise, I think this is great, right? And then so on the flip side, like as killer as well, right? There are good points that like Builderman sentries can be, or TAF bombs, stuff like that, but they're also very easily played around, right? It's not like they're so abhorrently broken that you can't do anything against them without actively going out of your way. So that is nice. I like that. So balance wise, great. Open wise, like it's good. It's got a nice mix of everything. I think the only downside to this map is that the detail is kind of just like it's not bad, don't get me wrong. It is a very unique map. It's not bad. I just don't think there's a lot going in its favor in terms of detail, right? It kind of also suffers from just very generic looking map, but not in the bad way by any means. It's got at least a little bit more going on with it, but yeah. That's really all I have to say about Glass Houses, though. Number 4. There you go. Coming in at number 3, I have Horror Hotel. I think that this is a great map when it comes to detail. I think it's definitely, when I think this game, this is one of the first maps that comes to my head. It's a very, very unique map. There's a lot of interesting details behind it. Every single area feels very unique and very inspired by the source material of Horror Hotel. I would say it is slightly survivor-sided, and that's what's taking it just a little bit down for me. But other than that, like, that is like the only downside I would say, is that it's kind of survivor-sided because of how big some of the loops are. But it's a very balanced map, and the detail is really, really good, other than that one little caveat with survivors. So, again, not like there's a whole lot to say here. I just think it's a good map. Coming in at number 2, we have Brandon Works. I love this map. Is it my number 1? No, and I will get to why. But this is still an amazing map. Right off the bat, I want to say that this is the map with the best like ambience soundtrack in the game. This soundtrack is insanely well done. Feels like it fits the inspiration of Brandon Works really well. I love everything about this soundtrack a lot. And to further that, the detail on this map is by far like number 1. Number 1 detailed map. All the references to the series is super, super good. Especially once you like actually go back and watch it and then you play this map, you can catch on a lot of the details, and it's really, really cool to see. So they did that really well. I love what they did there. The only downside I would say to this map, and the only reason I don't have this at number one, which is kind of crazy because I'm like absolutely glazing this map, I will say that the balance kind of suffers from the 50-50 problem, where sometimes you'll have games where survivors just trample you because of the fact that like Builderman is pretty good on this map, Dusakar is pretty good on this map. Thank God, Dusakar needs a good map, dear God. But yeah, like those supports are really good on this map. It's very easy to lock down certain areas too. And even like Sentinels are also pretty good on this map because there are lots of open areas to block or shoot you from. So on the flip side though, there's also games I've had where Killer just tramples, right? Because again, it's very open, but there are also areas of where it gets condensed. Like the castle is a pretty condensed area, even if it can be hard to actually get up there. So very dependent on who you're playing as, but other than that, this map is just insanely well done. And coming in at number one, if you've been paying attention, you probably know what it is already. That is Carnival. When it comes to Carnival, I think this is the most balanced map in the game. It is perfect for both sides. And I don't, this is also not me just saying like, oh, it's super 50-50 like some of the other maps. No, you can play as anyone and do okay. You can play against anyone on this map and do okay. So this is one of the only maps I would say where it does not matter who you are playing. It matters more about your skill. And that is very nice. There's a lot of open areas, there's a lot of looping points, there's a lot of choke points, so it makes it to where there is lots of fluidity throughout this map and opportunities on both sides to do well. The detail on this map is really cool. I love the atmosphere on this map a lot. I think the way that it kind of ties everything like regarding Cool Kid and this area about Cool Kid is really cool, and I honestly kind of wish more maps would do that. So hopefully, crossing my fingers. And again, it's just a very unique map. When someone says like, oh, the Carnival map, it's very easy to picture what they're talking about because it's just like, it's that iconic. The details and what they've done with this map make it a very iconic and unique map compared to other ones that kind of either blend in with others or don't really mesh well or are very generic. This one is anything but generic, so it makes it so that it's very memorable, very balanced and skillful, so that you can have fun on this map. And there's really just no downsides, I would say, to this map. Nothing about it is like a downside. There are maps that do certain things better, but this is like the perfect all-rounder map that the game needs. So easily my number one spot. But yeah, so that's gonna be everything. Kind of a shorter one, I know. I was just trying to get something out there. Something to look forward to. I do have my 4th compilation coming up in the next few days, hopefully. I also am probably going to do a review on the Secret of the Mimic game. I'm still kind of debating that one, so if you want me to do that, let me know. Because I do have some very hot takes when it comes to that game. But as a little preview, I'm just going to say it now. I was not a fan of Secret of the Mimic at all. Might be an interesting video to talk about, or even something to do on a podcast. Wow, a podcast one day. So if you're wanting me to do that, let me know. If you're wanting me to do something else, let me know. I will try to get those out as soon as I can. I've been very busy lately between just personal stuff and some other projects I've been working on. So I will get to those as soon as I can. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all later.